joining me right now for fantasy football conversation. My guy, Andy McNamara, is back with me on 97.3 ESPN. Andy, welcome in. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm in the brand new Gridiron Pit here at Tropicana, Atlantic City. It's a really cool place. Obviously you can't see the screens because the screens are across from me and we can't put actual games on the YouTube stream, but
right.
legal issues. But
yeah.
Still, we're, as always, we have our fantasy football conversations each week. So let's get into, first of all, what happened the last 2 days before we get into what happens on Sunday. For you, looking at last night's game, Chiefs and Chargers, right? Herbert and Mahomes both have pretty good games in fantasy football, but are those performances things that people can expect to keep getting from them? Because, for example, someone like me, I got Justin Herbert and Kyler Murray on my fantasy teams. On another team, I have Herbert and Mahomes. So for someone like me, there's variables that go into this, right? So what we saw last night, do you anticipate that happening long term?
It's tricky in a sense because it was at a neutral site. It was in Brazil. We know those games can kind of be weird, right? And I would feel more comfortable with a body of work after week 2 or 3. However, we don't have that luxury in fantasy football, so we have to project, right? Now, what I was surprised with, let's look at the Chargers first of all. I was very surprised that they did not go more run heavy,
right?
As was sort of the game plan and MO from Harbaugh coming into the year and really sort of his MO throughout his coaching career in the pros. Justin Herbert balled out, man. Like that was holy cow. 131.7 QB rating, 25 of 34, 3 touchdowns, running like a beast. Like he was on fire against a good Chiefs defense too. So does that pass heavy equate? Is Omarion Hampton got 15 carries? I want to see that go up. Primarily, Josh, because I am heavily invested in Omarion Hampton. I'm in 4 leagues, and I got him in all 4. I need me some Hampton. All right? Need me. I need him. Little, under 10 fantasy points. I was a bit underwhelmed. But a little underwhelmed. But, however, I made up the difference on the Javonte Williams in a couple of those leagues for the Dallas Cowboys on the Thursday. So I'm hoping that balances out.
We will get into Thursday as well because I had 2 specific questions for you about the Eagles-Cowboys game. One being the way you saw both the Cowboys and the Eagles defenses play. Are you starting to maybe say for fantasy football purposes, hey guys, keep those defenses in mind as you start playing maybe like people like me, we don't keep a ton of defenses in all of our leagues, right? So we start to switch them out week in and week out, right? Are the Eagles and Cowboys maybe leaning into that category for you, Andy McNamara, to say, hey, the right matchup, you want those defenses out there?
I don't want the Cowboys defense out there because I think that Micah Parsons factor is going to keep coming up.
So really quick, so you think what we saw Thursday night was a Fugazi?
I do. I think it was a bit of a first week, Super Bowl, getting the banner going up and Philly and all that good stuff. I just don't really see how that Cowboys defense, depending on matchup, right? If you have a stinker team coming in there playing, it's not that you can never use them.
Right.
But my question is, where's the weapon, right? And also with Jalen Carter being out for the Eagles in that game because of this stupidest spit. Like, why are you spitting gum, period? And then why are you doing it when the referee's looking at you? Insane. I was screaming. I got the Eagles defense into him. Like, well, what's going on? Gonna be 3 fantasy points. Unacceptable, Jalen Carter. I'll fine you too. Good Lord. It's crazy. But I think the Eagles defense is one you can feel much more comfortable with as long as Jalen Carter keeps his gum in his mouth going forward than the Cowboys one, which I think we're gonna start seeing some pain coming out of that eventually.
Because I was saying before you came on, Andy McNamara joins us each week for fantasy football conversation here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. When you look at, what we saw on Thursday night, I said Vic Fangio deserves a ton of credit. I mean, that guy said, I lost my best player. We just allowed 14 points. It was almost like the scene from Remember the Titans. We're not going to gain another yard. So they went to halftime and said, they're not scoring again. And they scored 0 points in the second half to the Cowboys. So it's like, look at the Eagles defense. Like, we talked so much about, they lost Josh Sweat, they lost Milton Williams, they lost Slay and Isaiah Rodgers. And it's like, well, they still got Fangio, because apparently he said, I lost one of the best players in football on defense. And I said, we're fine. We'll figure it out. Like, how amazing is that? Like, there's a part of, like, if you're a fan of, like, for example, you're a Browns fan, for example, like, there's always a part of other fan bases probably that's like, why can't we have that guy?
Yeah, right. And the thing is, too, it's not like Jalen Carter was out injured and he had time to prepare for that. That's the difference, right? That was on the spot.
Yep.
Blew everybody. Like, what is happening? And you got to adjust on the fly.
Yep.
And you do that job. Masterful work by Vic Fangio. Absolutely. He deserves a ton of credit. And when Carter gets back and hopefully smartens up the rest of the way, that defense, that defense has the marking man to be something real special.
All right. So let's get to the rest of the fantasy football, because obviously the big news for those who didn't see it today, if you're a fantasy football player, if you're a Browns fan, if you're an AFC North fan, Junkins is finally signed.
Hallelujah.
So talk about the fantasy football implications, because, Andy, how many times have you and I talked about over the year? We've been doing this now for 6 years here on 97.3 ESPN, okay? We look great for our age, by the way.
We sure do.
It's one of those deals where, I feel like there's a Ric Flair joke thrown in there, but I'm not fast enough. We need the no context Ric Flair account to like throw something in there. But
yes.
It's my point is that it's the idea that how many times have we talked about running back is the hardest position. Mm-hmm. It's the hardest position to get a good gauge on, right? And if you are a fantasy football player, is Judkins maybe the answer for someone's team right now?
I will say, I believe yes, with the caveat of we still have some questions to be answered. First of all, if you picked him up in any drafts, I was unable to personally. I wanted to get him later, went a little sooner. He will not be playing Sunday against Cincinnati. So if you got Judkins, you hear the news, do not put him in the lineup. He's not getting in. The other part of it is, okay, he signed fully guaranteed 4-year rookie deal, but the NFL is still doing their investigation.
Right.
We don't know if a suspension is coming, and if it is, for how much. Now, he was cleared of all the legal issues. Sometimes that doesn't matter to the NFL, right? It's totally up to Roger Goodell, Judge Goodell, to do it. So if you got him, you got to be feeling good. We just don't know when we're going to use him. It definitely won't be week 1, and depending when it comes down. Now, if it comes down suspension, 4 games or something, well, nice, fresh, hot rookie who's going to be coming in after the first month of the season. So it's potentially fantastic news. We just still have some questions.
By the way, was he fresh? Look at these hats that we're giving away.
Oh, I want one of those. Sharp.
Yeah, those who are wondering.
I got to get down. We got to do a live remote, man. You guys got too much fun stuff going on. Live draft party. You're at restaurants. Your Caesars there, all that. Oh, we need to do it. I'm going to figure out a way.
All right, so let's get to the rest of the fantasy football slate. Speaking of running backs, the other big news that came out yesterday. So Christian McCaffrey didn't practice. Now, McCaffrey was interesting because he went to the media on Friday, right? Yesterday, It was like around maybe like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock Eastern time. He's meeting with the media, and he's like, well, when you're a player with my history, people get a little suspicious. But I'm fine. I'm going to be good. Even though he didn't practice, and the 49ers listing with a calf issue, are you concerned if you're a Christian McCaffrey owner?
Oh, absolutely I am. And that's why his stock dropped, and he might have, depending on the injuries this year, might have still been overdrafted in fantasy drafts, right? We know when that guy's 100% and popping, still one of the best in the game. Problem is, it is getting less and less often that he's 100%, which is why that Brian Robinson deal, acquiring him from Washington that San Francisco did, is so vital. So is he going to play or not? Sounds like it's going to come down to a game time decision potentially. But if I'm a McCaffrey fan, you're watching that, or a McCaffrey owner, you're watching that right up to that timeline. And if you're a Brian Robinson owner, you better be doing the same thing, because if he isn't, you got to really gauge it. Because remember, Kyle Shanahan can be weird and hate your fantasy team. Let's not forget that. Remember, who was the guy? Oh, I forget who it was a couple years ago. Some guy you never heard of. He brings it from the practice roster, runs for like 150, and the guy,
Right.
the backup, didn't get anything. So weird. I'm looking at the depth chart. You got McCaffrey, Brian Robinson Jr., Isaac Guerendo, who had a pup, and Jordan James, who's doubtful. So like it could be Guerendo, but you just got to track that situation. But I'd be very nervous. It is a bad start to the year for Christian McCaffrey. That is for sure. So if you're an owner, you might want to maybe start hitting the trade block a little bit, looking at waiver wire, getting some handcuffs, and trying to prep yourself a little bit.
Weekly fantasy football conversation with Andy McNamara, hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN, streaming live on YouTube and X at Josh Hennig at 973 ESPN. We are live in the Dr. Squatch virtual studio. We are in person at the Gridiron Pit inside Tropicana, Atlantic City. Speaking of Sunday, Andy, I am very curious to see the Vikings-Bears game this weekend, because you could argue that game is going to tell us a ton, because J.J. McCarthy, not a lot of great praise about him coming out of camp. But you know what? They got his boy Adam Thielen. Him and Thielen worked out this offseason together. Mm-hmm. We know that Brian Flores, great defensive coordinator. Is Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams going to be able to handle the Brian Flores pressure? So, Andy, I want to know from you, how are you gauging for fantasy football owners the Bears and Vikings game?
Monday Night Football, I'm totally with you. This is fascinating because of all the things you outlined. Let's start with the Bears. And you look at what was the problem last year? Terrible offensive line. They put a lot of resources into that. Yep. You drafted Luther Burden III. You have DJ Moore. You got a Dunze. You have the pieces. You drafted Loveland as well to go along Cole Kmet. The problem with me, with the Bears-wise, fantasy-wise, outside of DeAndre Swift, who I got in one of my leagues, maybe two, is that seems to be the lead back. Not your traditional, workhorse, but that seems to be the safest fantasy bet. Everybody else, Josh, we don't know what the mouth feeding is going to be like, right? Like Kmet used to be the guy. Well, Loveland's in there. Are they going to cannibalize each other at tight end? Maybe. What does it look like at wide receiver? Who's getting the ball? That's going to take some time to figure out. I am personally not a Caleb Williams believer. We talked about it before the last draft when it was Jane Daniels, and I was screaming that why would you not take Jane Daniels? He's far more complete, proved right with the Rookie of the Year. So you look at the Bears, then the Vikings, and I'll tell you this, I am not a J.J. McCarthy guy. I wasn't when he came out. Am I a Michigan hater because I'm a Buckeyes fan? Absolutely. I'll just put that out there, but I don't believe in the guy. I've said on your airwaves and mine, he's Mac Jones with better hair. I don't see any elite traits. I don't see any reason why people are crowning this guy after coming off an injury. You got Justin Jefferson, who should just get the ball. I think it brings down potentially everybody in the fantasy world from the Minnesota Vikings because of J.J. McCarthy. It's a system-based offense, we know. Made Sam Darnold work, so maybe you can do the same for J.J. But you're right. That game is going to give us our first peek. What should we be expecting in the fantasy football world?
It's a great question, and I think that's where you mentioned Darnold. I look at the 49ers game versus San Francisco. I think San Francisco is going to win that game, by the way. I think San Francisco is going to kick their rear in that game, because I think Seattle this is a rebuild for them. You don't trade away DK Metcalf and get better, right? That's not how this thing works.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, the other game I wanted to hit on with you that I'm very curious about, because when we did the football show last night, streaming live each Friday night here on YouTube and X at Josh Hennig, presented by Caesars Sportsbook, the Tropicana, Atlantic City, which is where we are at today for the Gridiron Pit opening weekend of football season. Bengals, Browns. I know this is a game you're going to be very focused on. Now, I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I don't think there's going to be a ton of defense in this game. Talk about the fantasy football implications, because people know about Burrow, right? They know about Jamar Chase.
Sure.
But Mr. I Host the Sick podcast, talk about the Flacco to Judy and Njoku connection. Could that be a sleeper in fantasy football this year?
A sleeper stack, absolutely. Throwing Jerry Jeudy as well to that group. And this is, I'm with you. If I'm putting a couple bucks down, I'm going to take the over 47.5, and I'm taking the Browns to cover at home that 5.5. Remember, too, Joe Burrow has been sacked the most by the Browns. No team has sacked him more, namely Myles Garrett, who's on Joe Burrow. And Burrow has admitted, he's like, that's the problem. Now, the issue is Jim Schwartz has his best defensive line in his tenure with the Browns right now, with 5th overall pick Mason Graham. You got Malik Collins beside him. You got a nice rotation on the other side of Myles Garrett.
Right.
That front four with Carson Schlesinger at linebacker, the rookie who's been wowing everyone, is going to be a problem. So the question is going to be the Browns safety group, which is an issue. Can Burrow get the ball out deep enough and fast enough to take advantage of that? That's where it is. But that is the heat is going to be coming. I'm picking the Browns to win. The Burrow, Flacco, like if for whatever reason, now it's the start of the year, you should have a decent quarterback. But if you're looking for a streamer, you're playing DFS, you can do worse with Joe Flacco this week, man, because I'm with you, Josh. I think Joe Flacco is going to put up some big fantasy points. David Njoku must start. Jerry Jeudy must start. And the backfield right now without Judkins is going to be a schmoz between Jerome Ford, Dylan Sampson. I got an anytime touchdown bet for you, too. Raheem Rocket is his nickname, Sanders. He's their big back. If they get at the goal line, anytime touchdown. I don't know what the numbers are saying on it, but no one's talking about it. Sanders, anytime touchdown. And I'm not talking about Shador. I'm talking about Raheem to get you there.
At AndyMC81 on the Twitter X platform, at AndyMC Sports on Instagram. The Sick Podcast. Like, subscribe, download wherever you get your podcasts. Andy, am I forgetting anything? Plug it. Go.
Yeah, well, it's going to be live show, 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, Sunday, on YouTube, The Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara at Sick Browns on X as well. And we're going to be going over fantasy football start sits. We're going to be taking your questions, get them in on X at AndyMC81 at Sick Browns. Use hashtag AskAndy. Come live. We answer all those questions. Browns, Bengals preview, parlay party, best bet's going to be a ton of fun, 10 a.m. Eastern. And of course, I'm wearing the Railbirds hat. Big day of horse racing today across North America. Horse Racing World Championship winning, you're in, as well as a bunch of other big money stakes races. So we got the picks. If you want to bet on the horses, at My Railbirds on all socials.
By the way, really quick, some breaking news. Bad news for Ollie Gordon owners.
Oh, no.
The Dolphins have elevated Jeff Wilson from the practice squad. So you talk about how Kyle Shanahan muddies the waters. Mike McDaniel is muddying the waters in Miami at running back.
Oh, that's disappointing. I'm not starting Ollie this week, but I got him on the bench. That guy deserves some chances. And I'll go to the old Seinfeld clip where it's the Kramer's getting the chicken, and Jerry goes, "That's not good for business." And the guy says, "That's not good for anybody." We don't want Jeff Wilson. I want me some Ollie. That's breaking news. We'll see. Maybe keep Ollie on the bench this week.
Andy, appreciate you jumping on today.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.